comes to us from Exodus chapter 33, verses 12 through 23. And we're still in Moses. We've been talking about Moses for a while now. So Moses said to the Lord, "See, you have said to me, 'Bring up this people,' but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, 'I know you by name,' and you have also found favor in my sight. Now if I have found favor in your sight, show me your ways, so that I may know you and find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people." He said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he said to them, "If your presence will not go, do not carry us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people, unless you go with us? In this way we shall be distinct, I and your people, from every people on the face of the earth." The Lord said to Moses, "I will do the very thing that you have asked, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." Moses said, "Show me your glory, I pray." And he said, "I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you the name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. But," he said, "you cannot see my face, for no one shall see me and live." And the Lord continued, "See, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock. And while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft in the rock. And I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. And then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen." And this is the word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God. So we've been talking about Moses a lot. We talked about Moses last week. We talked about Moses in Bible study this week. I think we're just about finished with Moses here. He's almost at the end of his story. But Moses is we talked a lot in Bible study this week about how important Moses is in the Old Testament. It's very hard to over-exaggerate the importance of Moses in the Old Testament. We learned that there are 4 of the 5 books of the original Old Testament devoted to Moses, and so Moses is an important character. Moses is important to us because Moses not only is the giver of the law, but Moses is the first person to have the kind of relationship with God that he does. He's sort of a modern kind of a guy in that way. In the Old Testament, people didn't have personal relationships with God. God was far away, God was the creator, and God was the judge, but God wasn't a personal entity. God wasn't known personally to the people. They didn't feel that way. They thought that God was really far away. Now, Moses is still a man of his time, and so in the story of Moses, there's that strangeness at the end about God. Moses wants to see God, and God said, "Well, you can't look at me and live, and so I'll let you see my back," which is sort of strange. But Moses, the rest of the story, Moses and God are having a conversation. Did you hear the conversation they were having? Been talking a lot about relationships, and I'm going to go back to that again this morning because I really think that is at the core of what we are called to be as Christians, in a relationship with God. Now, that sounds obvious maybe to us that we're in a relationship with God, but if we really dig into that, it's maybe not so obvious. Think about what relationships, really good relationships, are like. Whether that's between a significant other, whether that's between a sibling, whether that's between a parent, whether that's between friends. Relationships are two-way things. A relationship isn't a one-way deal. A relationship isn't a good relationship if it's just all going one way. If it's just one person telling the other what to do and how to do it, that's not a relationship. There are other words for that, now most of them unpleasant. But it's not a relationship. What God calls us to is a two-way street. He wants us to talk to him. He answers us. It's okay to argue with him. We learned that in Bible study this week, or we talked about that. It's okay to argue with God. Sometimes what God tells us isn't the answer that we like. And we, like Moses, argue with him. Now, there are lots of people who have spent their lives in church who have been taught that to question the Almighty it demonstrates a lack of faith. Now, I completely reject this because we are called to use our intellect. We are called to use our brains. God made us thinking people. He gave us free will. He wouldn't have given us free will if he didn't expect us to exert our will. Now, that doesn't mean that we should just exert our will and make ourselves happy all the time. We know that as we grow from little ones like Calla, who thinks that her will should just be, right? She thinks that her will should just be acceded to at all times. Martin and I went to visit Jason and Alicia this week, and Lucy is like 18 months old. And Lucy believes that what she wants, she should get immediately. Probably before she thinks that she wants it. Now she's old enough to express herself, at least a little bit. She's really good at no. 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 It's her best thing. She does no very well. She thinks that she should get immediately what she wants, immediately when she wants it. And if she doesn't, she throws herself onto the floor and throws a fit. And Jason and Alicia say, not dealing, and they walk off. I think maybe God does that with us sometimes too. We throw a fit, and God sometimes says to us, not dealing with the fit, and he walks off. Come back and talk to me when you're being reasonable. Now, does that mean that we can't argue with God? I don't think so. I think that we can say, God, why did this happen? God, please let this other thing happen. God, I don't understand. We can talk to God. Because if we can't talk to God, then we're not in a relationship with God. And that's not what we're called to be. Now, the relationship that Moses was in, Moses argued with God. But God was going to, you remember was it last week? God was going to destroy him. They built that, Moses went up on the mountain and got the 10 Commandments, and he came down, and there they are worshiping a golden calf. And God is ticked, and God's like, I'm wiping them all out. I'm starting over with you, Moses. And Moses said, oh, God, no, you don't want to do that, because then what will people say about you? And these are your people. And they screwed up, but they're your people. Moses argued with God. Moses said, please don't do that, God. Now, could Moses make God do what he wanted? Clearly not. Clearly, God is God, and God will do what God does, because God knows what he's doing. The whole book of Job is about that. God knows what he's doing. Job at the end says, why me? And God says to Job, listen, were you there when I created the heavens and the earth? Were you there when I created all of everything that there is? If I told you the answer to why, you wouldn't understand it. And so just because we can talk back to God doesn't necessarily mean that we'll get what we want, any more than Calla or Lucy get what they want when they throw a fit, okay? Or that Martin's going to have to not go to work tomorrow if he throws a fit. Just because we're unhappy about something doesn't mean that's going to change. But God wants us to be in a relationship with him. How much does God want that? Enough that he came himself. He sent his son, Jesus Christ, to be here, one of us, so that we could see him. All the way back to Moses, people wanted to see God's face. Let me see what you look like. And finally, God said, okay, here, this is what I look like. Jesus Christ. That's what I look like. That's who I am. And we can see that reflected in each other. We see when we act as Christians, when we imitate Jesus Christ, we show God to the world. Now that's a little scary. Because if people are seeing God through me, do they know when I'm showing God and when I'm not? Or do they think everything that I'm doing is showing God? That'd be scary. Because sometimes I'm not reflecting the love and the glory of God and Jesus Christ. Sometimes I'm reflecting my very selfish human nature. And I want it my way, and I want it that way now. And if you don't believe that, I know somebody that can give you good testimony that that's how I am some days. I want it my way. That's not reflecting the love of Jesus Christ. All of the good attributes that Annalie knew, the kindness, the helpfulness, the sharing of our abilities and our talents, those are the characteristics of God and Jesus Christ that shine out through us. When we show the world those attributes, we are showing the love of God and the face of God through us. But when we fail to do that, we're showing the world a different face. Now, if people associate us with being a Christian, what do they think when we're not being Christian-like? Do they think that's what Christians are? I've said before, and I'm going to say again, I think Christians need to take the title back. Because there are a lot of people out there in the world right now who are throwing around the title Christian. They'll introduce themselves to you. Hello, my name is Ann, and I'm a Christian. Well, if you've got to tell somebody that up front, makes you kind of wonder who you're trying to convince. People should know we're Christians by the way that we reflect the love of God. The way that we reflect the character of Jesus Christ. That's how we show that we're Christians. And there are a lot of people out there in the world right now who are using the title Christian and who are reflecting everything but that. They're reflecting Christianity as something that is self-serving and selfish and judgmental and self-righteous. Jesus was none of those things. When do you ever remember a story of Jesus being self-righteous or a judgmental? Who did Jesus say, go away, you're too evil for me to deal with. I don't want you here, you're not welcome. Your lifestyle doesn't fit my idea, so get out. Jesus never said that. Jesus took in all of the people that the religious leaders were saying that to. Jesus welcomed all of those people. And so that's what we're called to be. Christians, people who are Christ-like, people who reflect God in their whole being. Now Moses asks God, he says, we'll go, but you have to go with us. And God says, I will go with you. And then he says something, in this way, when God is with us, we shall be distinct, I and your people, from every people on the face of the earth. Now, Moses was Jewish, and that's who they're talking about. But through Jesus Christ, we are brought into that covenant with God. Do people see us as distinct because of our faith? Because of the way that we conduct ourselves? Do people see us as distinct from every other people on earth because of the way that we live our lives? If they do, in a positive way, then we are living out our Christian calling. If not, we got work to do. And I suspect that, like me, many of us have work to do. I got a lot of work to do. But I don't have to do it on my own, because God goes with me. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. That's the little Bible verse that I repeat to myself whenever things are bad, and I don't know if I'm going to make it through. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I just keep saying it over and over again because it's true. Because the grace of God through the love of Jesus Christ goes with us everywhere. We carry it with us. It's there. And with that power of Jesus Christ, we can do anything. There is nothing that is too great for God, And so there is nothing that is too great for us. And so when we think, just keep it Christian to that person, they just don't deserve it, then we need to ask ourselves, well, do we deserve the grace that we have been given? I know for myself the answer is no, I don't deserve it. But it's there anyway. It's a free gift. It's there whether I deserve it or not. And so if it's there for me, maybe it's there for them too. And if I can give them the benefit of the doubt, then I'm acting the way Jesus wants me to do. That's what Jesus did. He gave people the benefit of the doubt. And if we can do that, then we can go out into the world and act like Christians. If we did that, if all of the people who call themselves Christians acted like Christians in the world, think of what the world would be like. It would be a different place. It would be a much better place. We can't fix all of them, but we can work on us. And we can work on us with that grace of God that comes down through Jesus. We can go out into the world and we can be better than we were yesterday. We can continue to be better. Somebody recently said in Bible study that they're a better Christian now than they were when they became a Christian. And that's awesome. That's exactly right. And that's what we need to pray, is that 10 years from now we'll be even better than we are today. And 20 years will be even better than that. That we continue to grow in our Christianity. That we continue to grow in the love of Jesus. That we reflect that to the world, and that we get better and better at it as we go. That practice does make perfect. John Wesley believed in an idea called Christian perfection. That we could get to be perfect Christians. Now, I don't know if that's true. But we can certainly get closer. We can get closer and closer and closer. And that's what we're called to do, is to be closer and closer and closer. Just as in the Old Testament, God went with the people. Moses said, we'll go, but you've got to go with us. And show me your face. We have that same yearning today. We want God to go with us. We want to know that He is with us. And we want to see His face. Through Jesus Christ, we can. Because we can see Jesus in each other. And we see the face of God. And so, as we see the face of God in others, we reflect that more in ourselves as well. And we help the world to see God. And that's what we're called to do. So as we go into the world this week, be the face of God. And you don't have to do it on your own. You've got God's grace with you. Be that face of God. And when you're tempted to say, take a deep breath and think about showing people that face of God. And through the love of Jesus Christ, we can march on to Christian